Today on Time About the Movies, we're wrapping the month of July 2010 up with 3 movies, including Steve Carell and Paul Rudd and their first movie together since Anchorman and the 40-Year-Old Virgin. That is, of course, Dinner for Schmucks, directed by the same guy who did Meet the Parents. We also have Zac Efron starring in the drama Charlie St. Cloud, and the sequel that nobody was asking for, but they made it, Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore. And shocker of all shockers, it's actually a lot better than you would give it credit for. Not a lot, but not incredibly better, but I'll delve more into it when we get later on in this show. So let's get right to it. The final week of July 2010, this is Time About the Movies. And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the 3 films that wrap up July 2010, and we're starting off with our biggest new release, and that is Dinner for Schmucks. It stars Steve Carell and Paul Rudd, along with an assortment that includes Jermaine Clement, Jeff Dunham, Bruce Greenwood, and Ron Livingston, as it tells the story of a rising executive who finds out that his work superiors host a dinner celebrating the idiocy of their guests. He questions it, whether he's invited, and just as he befriends a friend, who would be the perfect guest for it? That's, of course, Steve Carell. And directed by Jay Roach, who gave us Meet the Parents. This is based off of another one of these movies by this guy, Francis Weber, who they've made remakes to his movies before, and most of them have not been very good. I think he did Three Fugitives, which was one that came out back in 1989. There's a couple of other ones, too. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now. My Father the Hero was another one. He has made some good movies that eventually did become good films overall. The Birdcage, which was a remake of La Cage aux Folles. The Toy was a fun movie. The Man with One Red Shoe. But yeah, most of the stuff I see here, Buddy Buddy, remember that? Billy Wilder's last movie as a director. Father's Day, that infamously bad Robin Williams, Billy Crystal comedy. Pure Luck, that Martin Short, Danny Glover movie that you don't remember. The Valet, I don't even know what that movie is. It's a comedy that came out in 2022 with Eugenio Dubrev, so yeah, but bottom line here is that most of this guy's work has not translated very well to the big screen. There's been some good stuff here and there, but it has not translated very well to the big screen. And lo and behold, this movie does not really translate all that well. It's a movie that, it's a one-joke premise that you're supposed to build this up to this moment where they're going to this dinner with all these people that are supposed to be idiots, and it's supposed to be the big selling point of the movie, and yeah, it's the best part of the movie, but you're still sitting through over an hour's worth of film before you get to that point, and you're not laughing one time in this movie. I did not laugh a single time watching this movie. It's that bad of a film. Like, this is a lousy movie, man, and I expect a whole lot better from everybody involved in this. The fact that Jay Roach decided to do this instead of Little Fockers later in the year tells you something, but hey, at least this is better than Little Fockers is. Good lord, that movie's gonna be a fun little trip when we get to the end of the year, but when you get to the dinner, yeah, it's funny, but not enough to save the movie in general. I mean, this movie should have been so much better than it had any right to. This movie should have been so much better than the rest of the film, than what it is in that third segment. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's just like, okay, we're building this up so we can go to this dinner where we tell these people they're fucking idiots, pretty much. Why is that funny? Why is that humorous? Why is my time being wasted on this? It just wasn't funny. It just wasn't incredible. It wasn't amazing. It wastes all this good talent, and it just doesn't work. It's a terrible movie. It's not funny. It's not funny. Plain and simple. I did not like Dinner for Schmucks. So let's see if we can turn the tide with our next movie. Zac Efron starring in Charlie St. Cloud. Why does that name sound like the thing you'd hear when you're trying to call somebody and you get the secretary for that company on the phone? It's just like, hello, Charlie St. Cloud Incorporated. How can we help you today? I mean, that's what I think of when I think of that title. But Zac Efron stars as Charlie St. Cloud, whose choice between keeping a promise made to his younger brother who died in a car accident or going after the girl he loves, played by Sex Drive's Amanda Crew. The story is using, it's based off of a book of the same name, and they've actually used that in other markets. Sometimes it's called The Death and Life of Charlie St. Cloud, and This was around that time when you had all these young stars taking on these more dramatic roles. Most of them did not work. Remember Me. You remember that for another reason altogether, not because the movie was great, but because of the fuck you insult to 9/11 at the end. The last song, I didn't think it was that bad, but I didn't think it was that great either. This film, kind of in the same wavelength as the last song in particular. It's not a great movie, but it got a bad reception when it came out back in the day, but I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's incredibly melodramatic. I mean, yeah, we want to see Zac Efron tackle more of these more adult roles and step outside of that High School Musical territory that he was in. He even has the same director who worked with him on 17 Again, which came out the year before, if I'm correct on that. Yeah, it's that same director, and he also did Igby Goes Down, which was a movie I actually did kind of enjoy. So the pieces are definitely there for something good, and I'm not going to say the movie is terrible by any means. It's just a movie that has a lot of problems. It's mostly in the scripting. This is one of those movies where the scripting, they can't decide on a specific tonal identity that they want to go with here. Do they want to go for a very melodramatic movie, or do they want to go for something on the lines of Ghost in a way, like a movie where this Zac Efron's character can still connect with his younger brother even though he's dead and in the afterlife. Like, it can't decide which direction it wants to go with, and I really don't think the movie really helps itself out in terms of the way it's written. And Zac Efron's doing the best he can with this. It's not really his fault the movie is bad. It's just the script overall just doesn't feel like I said, it doesn't feel like the tonal shift, the tonal identity is there. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I didn't hate it, but I get why people say it's not that great in general. And you kind of expect a whole lot more considering the talent on board with, considering the fact that this director got magic from Zac Efron the last time they worked together. But in the end, it just didn't really deliver what it promised. Kind of like with the last song. Not a bad movie, but certainly not a great movie either. A very mixed opinion on Charlie St. Cloud. Now, would you believe me if I told you that the best movie that comes out this weekend is our last movie, and that is, of all things, Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore? I know, shocking, right? Now, I'm not going to say this is a great movie or anything, or even on the same wavelength as the first Cats and Dogs, which was a surprisingly fun movie overall, but considering what this was, think about what this was. A sequel coming 9 years after the original film. Who cares about Cats and Dogs at this point? It wasn't even playing on TV back in the day, and yet somebody out there said, let's make another one. Why not? It worked the first time around. Hey, we'll get the director who did Journey to the Center of the Earth. Bring him on board. Was that even the same director? Okay, I was a little off. This is actually not the director of Journey to the Center of the Earth. However, he directed Journey to the Mysterious Island. So, I'm a movie late on that, but I was right. Almost, but in the follow-up to the 2001 film, a hairless kitty named Kitty Galore, voiced by Bette Midler, plans to turn dogs against humans using a soundbite known as the Call of the Wild on all dogs. Cats and dogs are now forced to work together to stop Galore from taking over mankind. It's up to Butch, now voiced by Nick Nolte, a police dog named Diggs, played by James Marsden, a pigeon named Seamus, voiced by Cat Williams, and a cat named Catherine, played by Christina Applegate, to save the day. And yeah, as much as the sequel of this being made now is very questionable, it worked. It worked for what it was trying to accomplish. I mean, it's a silly, fun summer movie. It's a movie that's kind of reminds me a lot of last summer's G-Force in a way. It's not a great movie, but you could tell effort was being put into it, especially considering this was a 3D release, and you could tell that they used the 3D cameras in here really well. I mean, the 3D in here looked pretty good, surprisingly. The visuals are pretty impressive. I mean, they could have easily just made a cheap cash grab sequel. They could have pulled a Son of the Mask with this, but they don't do that with this one. The voice work as a whole is really good. Bette Midler, pitch-perfect casting as Kitty Galore. I mean, she knocked it out of the park with this. You got Neil Patrick Harris replacing Tobey Maguire as Lou, and even though you don't hear a whole lot of him in this, he's actually not that bad in here. Neither is Roger Moore, who's also in here. The rest of the cast is doing pretty good, too. The only exception, really, is Nick Nolte as Butch, which, of course, if you remember, in the original film, he was played by Alec Baldwin. And it just didn't seem like he was really trying in this movie to really kind of mirror what Alec Baldwin sounded like in the first movie. At least Neil Patrick Harris tried, and he did a decent job with it, but this Not so much with Nick Nolte. It felt like he didn't want to be there. He only took this because of a paycheck. One of the things I liked about it is that it's a relatively short movie. It's only 82 minutes long, and of all things in this movie, not one single fart joke in this. This is the 2000s. This is when movies were pretty much kids' movies were forced to have one fart joke in there or multiple fart jokes, and there's not one in this movie. That's more than enough to say this is one you should definitely see, but there are still a lot of problems to it. Like I said, Nick Nolte's not that great in here. Sometimes the special effects aren't that great either. There's scenes where the dogs look like they're puppets, and some where the cats look bad too. Chris O'Donnell, as much as he's trying to make this work, it really does feel like he does not want to be in this movie either. It's just like he feels like he's in another movie, honestly. And yeah, the story really isn't all that great. It is kind of reminiscent of something like a G-Force, but it is definitely, the whole bottom line here with this movie is that Cats and Dogs is a much better movie than you could possibly expect from the trailers that were coming out. Even though it does have a lot of its problems, it's still a fun movie. If you like the first one and even have some inkling to see what the second film has to offer, you might be surprised. You might be surprised at how actually good it is. But no matter how much I praise this movie for, or even say it's a good movie overall, let's be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. There was only one reason I went to go see this movie in theaters. You're goddamn right I went to go see this for the new Looney Tunes short. Honestly, if I could have, I would have walked out after the short was over, because just like, I got my money's worth, because as you can see, that's Coyote Falls, the first of several Looney Tunes CG shorts they were trying to put out there in front of these 3D movies. It was actually the first theatrically released 3D Looney Tunes short since back in 1953 with Lumberjack Rabbit. But simple setup: Wile E. Coyote is over a bridge and he decides to trick the Roadrunner through all these various circumstances, and it leads to hijinks and hilarity ensuing. My only problem with this is that it's way too short. It's only 3 minutes long, and I'm so used to the Looney Tunes shorts that are 7 minutes long. They add more and more jokes to it, but at the same time, I'm not going to complain about a new Looney Tunes short in 2010. Like, I'm so glad we're getting some Looney Tunes stuff now, even though Warner Brothers doesn't want to release it because they clearly have a problem with the Looney Tunes, and by Warner Brothers I mean David Zaslav. I don't know what you did to him, Bugs, but you really effed him up. That's why he's always right there, so you know he means serious business. But yeah, Coyote Falls, that's the only real reason I went to go see the movie, and like I said, I could have easily just left after that, but hey, you got a decent Cats and Dogs movie out of it, so it made it worth it in the end overall. And that's not the last time we'll see Wile E. and the Roadrunner on the big screen in 2010, but more on that in September. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and we'll jump into the last month of the summer season with August. Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg starring Adam McKay's latest comedy, The Other Guys. We have the third installment of the Step Up series, Step Up in 3D. And we also have, I'm going to keep doing that with every 3D movie that has 3D in the title, but we have a couple of underrated little gems that came out. The star-studded Middlemen, which features Luke Wilson, Kelsey Grammer, and Jacinda Barrett. We have Rob Reiner's latest film, Flip. And we also have 12 with Emma Roberts in it. And we'll take a look at all 5 of those movies. Excuse me, 5 of those movies. That'll be all coming up tomorrow on the show, so definitely be on the lookout for that. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button. Also, don't forget to hit our playlist and check out the previous episode we did. Previous episode. There we go. But with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.